Welcome to Matters Financial, Geopolitical from the Frontier. Thank you as always for stopping by. I'm always grateful. Let me start with some nice photographs. Sun up in Nairobi. This photo is by Murungi via Kenya Pics. And then a second one, Nairobi photo by Peter Size 10. Macro thoughts US Treasury is set for the longest losing streak since Watergate Scandal. Fantastic graphic from Garfield R 1966. This goes back to something I wrote in September last year when I quoted Hotel California. And I was talking about the bond market and saying, when people need to get out, they won't be able to. Or to put it another way and borrow the lyrics from the Eagles' Hotel California. Mirrors on the ceiling, the pink champagne on ice. And she said, we are all just prisoners here of our own device. Last thing I remember, I was running for the door. I had to find the passage back to the place I was before. Relax, said the nightman. We are programmed to receive. You can check out any time you like, but you can never leave. Global bond rout deepens ahead of US jobs report, with US treasuries heading for their longest slump in more than 40 years. Holga again, bond bubble about to pop. US 5-year yields climb to highest since 2011. Bund crash ahead, history could repeat. Citibank says, remembering 1999, when Fed raised rates while the ECB eased, US-German 10-year spread collapsed. Put up an image of Hotel California. It was a pleasure this morning to be a part of the rebranding exercise of the ICX Kenya. Very much enjoyed their event. It was a breakfast forum at which I was speaking, and I was speaking about customer experience. And it made me think a little bit off my normal reservation. And the link for that presentation is now on the website. If you care to have a look, it borrows heavily from Vinod Khosla, whose comment, the future is not seen in the rearview mirror. Taleb, his box, born in a box, go to die in a box. Bob Collymore, Val Afshar, and I started off with the Apple Think Different advert. Home Thoughts, Gugi Wathiongo, quoting Victor Hugo, there is nothing like a dream to create the future. And Dreams in a Time of War, which is a beautiful book, starts years later when I read T.S. Eliot's line that April was the cruelest month. I would recall what happened to me one April day in 1954 in Chile, Limuru, the prime estate of what in 1902 another Eliot, Sir Charles Eliot, then governor of colonial Kenya, had set aside as white highlands. The day came back to me, the now of it, vividly. He's also said elsewhere, in writing one should hear all the whisperings, all the shouting, all the crying, all the loving and all the hating of the many voices in the past, and those voices will never speak to a writer in a foreign language. Moving, honest and informative, this is a book about the influence of stories, storytelling and storytellers. It is a reminder that every generation, however beleaguered, can dream to change the world. I like this photograph of the media room, somebody's house, and then I was listening to Blondie, Union City Blue. Political reflections, timeline of the political scandal that brought down the South Korean president, and she has been brought down now. Massive people protests in Seoul, and the latest ones were from 6 hours ago. The sign reads impeachment. US President Donald Trump and Kenya's Uhuru Kenyatta have finally spoken on the phone. Fourth phone call with an African leader since taking office. given Kenya's prominent military role in operations against Al-Qaeda affiliate Al-Shabaab in Somalia, the talk focused on trade and security in East Africa. The leaders discussed our economic partnership and mutual dedication to overcoming terrorism and other regional security challenges through close cooperation. By some estimations, the call came too late, given mixed feelings between the US and Kenya. Kenya has been one of the US's closest allies on the African continent, dating back to the Cold War, when Kenya was one of the few newly independent African countries to adopt a pro-Western stance and allow US military on its bases. The country is one of the top recipients of US aid, around $1 billion a year, much of that dedicated to counter-terrorism efforts. And Kenyans are one of the fastest growing immigrant groups in the US. One critic called the omission of East Africa's largest economy from that list a failure of Kenyan diplomacy. Very interesting tweet I came across. What was North Korea's role in the insurgency movements in Uganda? Moscow's moves in Syria, 5 messages Russia is sending to the world. 1. Reports of Russia's demise have been greatly exaggerated. In other words, the narrative that Western sanctions plus falling oil prices combined with China's economic slowdown have brought the Kremlin to the edge of collapse is quite premature. 2. Putin is making it clear that he will not accept Washington's default position that the removal of a brutal strongman from power is a path to greater long-term stability in the Middle East. 3. Russia is more confident of its position in Ukraine. 4. The Kremlin enforces its red lines. And 5. Russia's willingness to put boots on the ground in Syria, in contrast to increasingly desperate search on Washington's part for local proxies, willing and able to fight both Assad and ISIS, and the reluctance of key US allies to take on more of the burden, serves several purposes. It reassures Russian partners that Moscow is prepared to meet its pledges, even if there is a cost in terms of resources, lives, and reputation. This has not gone unnoticed in places like Egypt and Azerbaijan. I've written severally about it. 5th of December 2016, I was talking about Putin's parabolic rebound. 5th of October 2015, after his Uganda visit, I was talking about him being a geopolitical grandmaster. The Prime Minister of Israel, Bibi Netanyahu, is currently visiting in Moscow. Ivanka Trump tweeted, "People who are passionate always work the hardest, and that sets them apart." And I think she's right. And then I couldn't resist this. "We love our First Lady and First Daughter." This is from the real Dr. Olmo. Let's move on to the currency markets. Euro-dollar caught a bid yesterday, now at 106.16. Dollar index 101.93, Japanese yen 115.37, Swiss franc 101.26, the pound 121.76, the Aussie 0.7526, Indian rupee 66.675, South Korean won 11.5863, the Rial 319.29, Egyptian pound 17.5495, and the Rand 13.3150. The Rand had a big down move yesterday. Dollar index, my target is still 110. Euro jumps above 106 as ECB's Draghi strikes less dovish tone. Bit of follow through today, 106.15. And dollar yen was a big mover. My target is 118, as I said a few weeks ago. Commodity markets, gold still below 1200 now. That was my target. We've hit it, but I think we're going lower, 1197. Crude oil dropped below 50. It's just popping back up to 50 right now for the first time since December, after concerns that OPEC's output cuts aren't tempering a surplus in the US triggered the biggest slump in more than a year. I'll put up a chart of crude oil, and it looks as if it's going to fall further. And this will really cause a problem across oil-producing countries from Riyadh to Abuja. Caracas to wherever you care to mention, Luanda. Iron ore's rally is showing signs of cracking. Oil isn't the only commodity under pressure. Copper is down roughly 7% from its most recent peak. So we're seeing commodity markets beginning to come off the boil on a stronger dollar. I like this $22.4 million convertible is among the most outrageous cars today. Super limited Pagani Huayra Roadster. And then finally a perforated column of caviar beads sit in the center of a bottle of vodka. Korean won, we're now at 1158.63, and we're in a period of uncertainty for the Korean won. We don't know who's going to be the new leader, and we've got a very fractious Korean peninsula. President Kabila would help Congo if he went off-road, says David Pilling. No one knows what Joseph Kabila, the DRC's overstayer-in-chief, spends his days doing. Few presidents who have been in power so long can have made so little impression. Mr. Kabila, who assumed power at the age of 29 when his father Laurent was assassinated, rarely makes speeches or appears in public. According to former aides, he spends much of the time holed up in his riverside mansion, occasionally sneaking out to indulge in his favorite pastime of off-road driving. At least that is a hobby in keeping with the state of his Western Europe-sized country. After 16 years in power, Congo still has virtually no all-weather roads. Given his seeming lack of appetite for leadership, it is not exactly clear why he is clinging on to power so dearly. The best guess is that he fears his safety and voluminous wealth could be put in jeopardy should he step down. The largest and potentially richest country in sub-Saharan Africa, with huge mineral resources and enough hydroelectric power to light up the continent, has never had a peaceful transfer of power. Meanwhile, Mr. Kabila is doing what he does best, nothing. There has been no move to appoint a prime minister. The government is saying it is broke, which is true. It cannot afford the supposed $1.8 billion cost of running an election. The best thing that can be said for Mr. Kabila is that under him his shaky stability has returned, yet that stability is by no means guaranteed. Listen to this. The mood in Kinshasa, the vast pulsing capital, is pressure cooker-like. And this goes back to what I was writing about. The revolutionary contingent attains its ideal form, not in the place of production, but in the street. This is from Speed and Politics, where for a moment it stops being a cog in the technical machine, and itself becomes a machine, a motor of attack. David Pilling talking to Moishi Katumbi, if I go home and get shot like a snake, what is Congo going to achieve from that? Nothing. President Kabila wrote on the 6th of June last year, I outwitted Katumbi by removing him from the street and the Congo entirely, and I called it a cleverly administered technical knockout. Look at this photograph of fishermen on the Congo River in front of Kinshasa, evening light with storm building up. South African all shares up 0.84% this year. Dollar versus Rand, big down move yesterday in the Rand. We're now at 13.3150. Egyptian pound at 17.5495. President Buhari has returned home after UK medical leave. The two photographs I've got, one from Africa is Rising and one from Intellect News. And it'll be interesting to see whether the margin for manoeuvre, which was expanded by his deputy, remains expanded, or whether he shrinks it back down again. Nigeria all share down 6.34% this year. Ghana Stock Exchange Composite Index up 10.8% this year. ExxonMobil said it would buy a 25% stake in a block offshore Mozambique from Italy's Eni Spa for $2.8 billion in cash. So the Mozambique government's going to get a bit of money. Capital gains, no doubt. Coming to Kenya, I like this photograph, the stars of the southern sky from the Masai Mara. The photograph is by Bobby Neptune. Wrote a piece over the weekend where I observed, interestingly, in 2011 we had our noses pressed right up against an election, just as we do now. Kenya wants to double its US coffee shipments. Africa's fifth biggest coffee producer exported 6.1 million kilograms to the US in 2015-2016 from 7 million kilograms a year earlier, accounting for 14% of total coffee exports. Kenya wants about 30% of its crop to end up in the US by the end of 2019. Germany bought the most specialty Kenya coffee in the last season at 8.17 million kilograms. Average export prices to the US were the highest in 2015-2016 at $296 per 50 kilogram bag, 18% higher than to Germany, according to government statistics. Nation's produce will be showcased as a portrait country at this year's Specialty Coffee Association of America Symposium in Seattle, the home of Starbucks Corporation. Bamburi Cement has reported full-year earnings per share was down 0.345%, full-year turnover was down 2.974%. Gross profit was up 5.698%, operating profit up 8.106%. Profit before tax was down 2.211%, earnings per share down 0.345%. They have already paid an interim dividend of 6 shillings. They're now paying a final dividend of 6 shillings, which puts the share on a mouth-watering dividend yield of 8.2%. Operating profit plus 8% versus the previous year, talking of a competitive operating environment, a marginal reduction in volumes into inland Africa export markets and intense competition, particularly in the individual home builder segment, impacted prices in some markets. Higher volumes in the infrastructure and contractor segment in the key markets of Kenya, Uganda and Rwanda, cost management measures, a tight focus on energy costs and plant efficiency projects in Kenya and Uganda despite higher inventory provisions. Nairobi All Share closed at a fresh May 2013 low, but is going to have a very big bounce today. It was down 10.12% as of this morning. NSE 20 down 7.38% this year as of this morning. I like this photograph, Friday Night Lights, Nanyuki. I was asked some questions about base titanium, and I said, we are in pioneer mining country. The CS Dan Kazungu has brought sanity to the docket, I said. OSAC State, US Embassy notes increases in sporadic, isolated violence in Laikipia and Baringo counties, and that continues to be a big challenge. Once again, thank you for stopping by, wishing you a fabulous weekend.